Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is to test out if something much cheaper is a dupe to something much more expensive. So the two products that we are trying out today are the expensive product, which is the first one I had, the Becca Undereye Brightening Corrector. I actually have a full video done on this because I totally love it. And I go through everything about this in that video, so I'll link that here and below so you can see more about that if you're interested. But I will talk a little bit about it here because I'm comparing it against the NYX Dark Circle Corrector, Concealer Corrector. This is €10, well it's actually $9.90 here in Galway, in Ireland rather. And then this, I looked online because my boyfriend's mum got this in America, so online from Cult Beauty I think it's like £22. So that would be roughly like, I don't know, 25, 26, 27 euro maybe. So there's a fair bit of a difference, maybe like 3 times. This is about 3 times the price of this. I love this. I really, really do. And I've been testing this out now for a couple of days and I do like it. They are very close, but I'll let you know how close and for what reasons. So first of all, the Becca Under Eye Primer, the main difference between them is that, apart from the price, this is kind of a pinky colour. This only comes in one colour. There's 4.5 grams in this, and I'll just swatch this and I'll swatch the other one to show you. So this is a pinky colour, very emollient. It feels quite oily, I suppose, in a nice way for my under eyes because I'm very dry. That's why I think I'm so attracted to it. And then this is more of a salmon colour. So the whole thing with the NYX ones is that there's 5 shades available, I think, which is immediately a bonus. So this is the fairest one, and then it goes up to like dark, which would be a deep orange colour, but they all have a peach undertone. So this one is a very light peach, but it definitely is more peach than the Becca. So you can see, than the Becca. So you can see there, this is the Becca, which is much more pink, and then this is the NYX. So it's not even as pale as the Becca one, and you can see immediately it doesn't have the same light reflection. Now it does contain some like brightening properties. It's still a lot more matte. This is more of an eggshell finish, I would say, whereas this is more of a full-on like shine. You can see there, it's just very, very shiny. And then this is kind of described as a backlight for your under eyes, so this is definitely supposed to be worn under concealer. Technically both of them would because they're correctors, but you definitely need to use a concealer, I think, over the Becca one so that it's not like that shiny. I'm going to read quickly a little bit about what it says online about both. So I'll start off with the Becca one, just because it's what I've had before. So it's a creamy brightening corrector that completely eradicates dark circles. There, we have that much down. Yeah, it's $30 on the website, so that's about right from what I was saying. So this colour correcting under eye brightener works to eradicate under eye darkness by brightening and evening the skin tone. It's a skin prep, so it preps for smooth, even coverage. It won't settle into fine lines and wrinkles. It kind of doesn't, and I explained this in the video because I think it's because it almost has a sticky property, so it doesn't move as much. Anything that's a little bit sticky won't move as much. I think that makes sense because it's like stuck in place, but not in a dry way, which is good. And it has ultra light reflecting illuminators. So, and it is called a rich luminescent cream, which is what it is. It is quite rich and emollient is the word that I keep saying. Full coverage and smooth and brightening. So then I'll go over the ingredients in one sec, but I'm just going to tell you quickly what the NYX one is described as. The product glides on without looking thick or obvious, so it is slightly less coverage than the Becca one and not quite as full on, I suppose. The subtle hint of orange counteracts the appearance of dark circles with natural skin tone pigments. They work in unison to provide the ultimate coverage. And then on the actual box, I don't have the box for the other one, it says the orange pigments is to cancel out the blue of dark circles. So anyone who has blue or purple undertones or cool undertones in general, this will work quite well for. It contains coconut oil so that it is moisturising, even though for the life of me when I was looking through the actual ingredients I can't figure out where the coconut oil is. It obviously has some kind of queer name. I just don't know what the coconut oil is. Anyhow, it also contains china clay, which says is tiny light reflecting particles that perfect. So again, I don't know where it is in the ingredients. Maybe it's the kaolin. Is that another word for china clay? Possibly. So kaolin is a clay, I suppose, and it would go a long way to explain why it's more mattifying or matte than the Becca alternative. Now, I think I'm just going to skip to yesterday, the footage that I did yesterday. So this is me demoing the product, wearing it all day, showing how I apply it and letting you know how it lasted. And then I'll come back, run quickly through the ingredients to explain why I think there's differences between the two and let you know which I prefer. So as you can see, I am wrecked looking. I am quite dark here underneath the eye. So I get purple here. I wouldn't say it's like a red purple. It's kind of fairly neutral. It's not very, very blue purple. It's kind of in between because there is a little bit of red to it and a little bit of blue to it. And then I get blue here on the inner corner. So I would say it's like neutral to cool colouring undertone that I have. So it is a warm base that you want to counteract that. So what I'm going to do is put the Becca on this side and I'm going to put the NYX Dark Circle Corrector on this side. And what I always do for that is just use my fingers. I just find it's the best way for these like emollient kind of products. So I'll just pick up some of the Becca, which is the slightly more pinky salmon colour. And I'm going to just kind of bounce that in place with my finger. You can rub, but the best coverage will always come from patting. And you can really see how that immediately brightens it up. So even though it's not particularly warm, it's just, and I said this in the actual video about this product, it's just that the coverage is so good that it counteracts the colour underneath. Kind of like the way the Vichy Dermablend correctors, they don't necessarily colour correct, but they still will cover tattoos and stuff because the pigment is so strong and the coverage is so good. And one thing which is kind of cool to note here is that this comes with a protective layer on top, which I think the Becca one did have something over the top. I'm kind of raging I didn't keep the box, but this comes with a protective film, so it's very sanitary. So obviously don't buy it from the shop or don't accept it unless it has that over the top. And look at that fresh new pot. So as I already mentioned, this one is a bit warmer and that has a little bit more peach to it. They're still very, very similar, but this is a little bit more pink and this is a bit more peach. So let's use the other side, and I cleaned off my finger there as well so that it's only this that's gone in. And it does seem to have a very similar consistency, maybe not quite as emollient, but still somewhat similar. And you can see now straight away that it's a bit more matte than this, but the coverage is very similar. And since this is my first time using it, first impressions, I really like how that looks on. Okay, so that's the two of them on there. I actually prefer how this looks in real life and in camera just because it is covering better, but that's because of its colour correcting properties. This is more shiny. I wouldn't say it's necessarily more brightening because I think if this was matte, I don't think it would be much more brightening than this. So my main thing now is to see how it wears throughout the day though. Like the reason I love this is because it is that emollient texture that just allows my skin to retain moisture throughout the day. It doesn't get dry, whereas this one could potentially get dry. It'll be interesting to see because it does contain clay, and yeah, I mean that's a good thing as well. I mean you don't want it to be too slippy, so we'll just see how good of a thing or how bad of a thing is, but I'll just zoom in quickly and show you how it looks. So again, here is the NYX, and I obviously went with #1 Fair like I said, and this is the Becca brightener. So I actually think I prefer the NYX one. I think it's also because it's not so shiny. Because this is shiny, it shows off the dent under my eye a little bit more, whereas this is obviously concealed a little bit more because it is more matte. Okay, I'm gonna go and pop on some concealer now and a tiny bit of face makeup. I don't know how much today. I just want to see how it wears. So we'll do the usual, what do you call this guy? It is the MAC Pro Longwear NC15. It's the concealer. And what I'm gonna do is, what am I gonna use? I'm going to apply that as a little bit of foundation, because I'm not actually gonna wear foundation. So I'll just apply that lightly around the face and also underneath the eyes as well. I love the MAC Pro Longwear concealer. I think it's great under the eye, but I think if you are quite dry, it can be a little bit maybe too dry. Like, it is film forming concealer in that it sets, and those traditionally don't suit very dry skin. But I've been loving it over the Becca one, so it'll be interesting to see how it works over the NYX one. And it could just be a case of, if it like is a bit dry, it could just be that this doesn't have the same quite emollient properties as the Becca one, but it'll be interesting to see. And then what I'll do tomorrow when I wear the NYX one by itself is I'll wear more moisturising concealer over it. I'm going to use my finger when applying the concealer underneath the eye, just because I don't want to move the corrector by using a brush, so it shouldn't disturb it too much by just patting it in place. And again, this is my favourite way to apply concealer anyhow on the area. Kind of my favourite way to apply most products around this area. And then just going with a clean finger around anywhere where you're kind of concerned that there might be a bit of build-up. Okay, so I have the Pro Longwear concealer on top. Again, looking at it, I think I prefer this side just because it's a little bit, it seems to have a bit more coverage. Again, I think it's because of the colour correction. This line here is a bit more noticeable again. I think it's because of that shiny property of the Becca. I do think this is a bit more bright in that little triangle, which I think is what's showing up this dent. I mean, they're still very, very close. I'm just not sure how confident I would be in how moisturised this will stay throughout the day. I will go ahead, just for the sake of being thorough, and apply my, what am I looking for? The Laura Mercier, I have a little bit in a sample pot here, the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder, because that's what I've been doing, and it'll be interesting to see how this kind of holds up. So I'll use a fluffy blending brush to pick up a tiny bit of line. I mean, I don't like too much on this at all. And lightly just press it over there. And I really only press it there on the inner triangle area, which is the part that gets shiny. I actually don't really like to put it over the lines too much. It's more for shine rather than lines that I like to set this. And now that it's set in place, I prefer this side. That's interesting. So I preferred this side before the powder, and now I prefer this side after the powder. Isn't that gas? How it changes. And when I smile, it's not particularly any more wrinkly here. That's a weird smile, sorry about that. But yeah, when I scrunch up, it's not particularly, I mean, it's not great either side, but it's not particularly any more wrinkly. So I guess a really weird smile. On this side, I don't think, than this side. It'll be just now to see how it kind of just wears throughout the day, pretty much. Okay, so here it is with all the makeup on. It's very close, guys. Like, there is a little bit of a difference, but it's almost hard to pinpoint what the difference is. Like, it's so close. I think the main tell will be to see how it wears throughout the day. So I'll zoom in and just show you quickly how it looks. So again, this is the side with the NYX, and this is the side with the Becca. I think, is this ever so slightly more brightening? They're still very, very close, like very close though. I think this is a little bit brighter in there, just towards the inner corner. It will be interesting to see how those wear. So I'll come back in a few hours time. It's like just after 4:30 here now, like 4:45. So I'll wear this for several hours. I'll try and wear it till late tonight, and as late as I can keep the makeup on, and we'll see how they compare then. And then I'll come back tomorrow and suppose, do my proper comparison review on it. We're only about 5 hours later. I mean, it's still a fair chunk. I left my phone downstairs, so I can't show you, but just over 5 hours where I wanted to do longer, but I just really want to take off my makeup and I want to get snuggled up in bed and read. I already edited the footage from me applying the makeup there a while ago because I wanted to see it just on camera, and when I saw it in real life compared to me looking in, say, the monitor here and with this lighting, I actually decided I do prefer, not prefer, they're very, very close, but marginally prefer the Becca side just because it is a little bit brighter. I think you can definitely see it here. I don't know, does it show up on camera, but it's definitely ever so slightly brighter. And I got my sister to look at me. I told her that they are two different products on each eye, and I didn't tell her which was which, and she said that she thought this was marginally lighter as well. So definitely is marginally lighter, absolutely. And interestingly enough, it's ever so slightly more dehydrated looking here. So I will have already discussed the ingredients, I'm sure, at the start of this video, but that is interesting. So I think what I'll do tomorrow when I'm filming the rest of the video, which is probably the start of this video, I probably won't powder this. I probably just won't have a need for it. I do need to powder this because it is quite shiny, but I can get away with powdering this because it doesn't dry out, whereas this one does seem to dry out a little bit, and I do have very dry under eyes, so I think I'll try this tomorrow without powdering it. And I did find that this dulled down a little bit when I powdered it, whereas this needed to be dulled down. This one didn't really. So that's just interesting. It's not bad looking. I mean, I've definitely used other ones that would make me way more tired and crepey looking. It's not as bad as it would be. Again, it's only 5 hours though, but yeah, very, very close. I would be happy to recommend this, but the Becca one is definitely a bit brighter. Okay, so I'm going to go over the ingredients like I mentioned. So we're going to start off with the Becca again. Now the Becca, that's like when people say the MAC. The Becca offering, the first ingredient is castor oil. Now this will explain why it has that, again, emollient finish and slightly more shiny, like full-on finish. Castor oil is a very thick oil. It is an emollient oil, like it's quite a thick, glooby oil. So that does explain a lot about why this product is the way it is. And then the third ingredient is a wax. So it's waxy, it's oily, that's why it has that lovely emollient, very, very moisturizing property. It does also contain kaolin. So that is a clay or a powder, so that would, you know, probably stop it from moving around so much as well. And then there's nothing else really that jumps out. Squalene, I can never pronounce that. Squalene is another very hydrating ingredient. And yeah, but the most telling ingredients will always be the top ingredients. So like it having the castor oil in that so high up, that really tells us why it has that the emollient texture. And then when I look at the NYX ingredients, the first ingredient is it's basically a fatty acid, so or fatty alcohol. Now there are good alcohols and bad alcohols. These fatty alcohols are actually good. They're quite moisturizing. They don't dry out the skin like other alcohols do. So basically it's just a moisturizing property. Then we have triglyceride, capric triglyceride. Again, it's just a moisturizing property, more or less. So they are moisturizing, the first two ingredients, kind of like the other one. They're just not as emolliently moisturizing. Do you know what I mean? And again, it contains kaolin as the fourth ingredient, so the same as the other one. The next ingredient is it has a wax again after that. It actually has a few waxes. Aloe vera. I actually quite like the look of the ingredients in this one. I'm actually more familiar with a lot of the words in this ingredient list. So it has like aloe vera, glycerin, alumina. So yeah, and then it does have another fatty acid at the end. So this seems to be more waxy, even though it does say it has coconut oil, but you know yourselves, coconut oil is a much more watery oil, if that makes sense. So it's not going to have that kind of thicker emollient quality again. And this is more waxy. So it explains why it has more of a eggshell finish rather than that full on like shiny finish. So as I mentioned in the footage from earlier that I recorded yesterday, I am wearing the NYX now today without any powder underneath, or over rather. So I'm wearing the NYX Corrector with some of my Pro Longwear over it, and I don't know, can you tell it is like, it has a little bit of a sheen to it, but it's not shiny the way the Becca was, and I can definitely get away with this without powdering, and I much prefer it without it being powdered. So me going forward would wear this as a base under my concealer without powdering, whereas I do need to powder with the Becca. I still think the Becca one lasts a little bit better on me, and I think that's because with the thicker oil and everything in it, it does seem to keep my under eye more hydrated looking. It stops it looking dehydrated. As you saw yesterday, this was definitely more dehydrated with the NYX one on. That's not to say I don't like the NYX. I do really like the NYX. I think it does a really good job at brightening up my under eyes. Like, I really like how they look, but I think the Becca one still wins, but for the price this is a very close second. And I think if, unlike me, you don't have dry under eyes, you'll probably love this. And you could even find this a little bit too shiny, I don't know, but this is great for the price. I have to say I'm really impressed by it. Definitely like how it looks on the under eyes. I do think it eradicates cool discoloration very well, and for the price I think it's a great little product. So I would say it's a fairly decent dupe without being like, you know, exactly the same. I'd say it's like an 85% dupe for the Becca Brightening Under Eye Corrector. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you've got any questions for me, leave them below, and I hope I covered everything. I don't want to blab too much, so I'll just see you all in my next video. Take care till then. So long, guys.